Well, hello, beautiful people. I'm Lisa Murray, and I had to do my makeup this afternoon for something, so I thought, well, I'll just do a Facebook Live as well. Because, why waste a good makeup? I don't really wear it that often. So, yeah, here we are. So, I thought today we would talk about adventures, vulnerability, and creating in the unknown. And this topic seems to be quite up this week in many, many ways because I think people really love to create what they know, actually. And one of my, joys is to actually create into the unknown. And hi, everyone who's joining. So happy to see you. And please, if you've got any questions about what I'm talking about, just throw them in the chat and let's see what we can cover that will be fun and interesting. And so I wanted to talk about something that happened this afternoon, and that is that I was coaching a client, and we were naming her business, and it was really interesting because when I name something for someone or with someone, it's not even for, it's with, I oh, Suzanne, you're already saying guilty as charged. Yeah, well, it's natural to want to actually create to the known. It really is. But what I do know is that when we're willing to create into the unknown, and this client that I was talking with this afternoon, it was really amazing. She is creating something with horses that is really, really for most people far beyond what horses actually are known for and do right now. And we ended up giving the business a really playful name. And yet, threaded through that was all this sort of vulnerability and curiosity and playfulness and all of these different energies. And what I know is that I always discover something every time I fling myself into the unknown. And in that session, I was flinging myself into the unknown because I had decided that I would record some client sessions for my new website and like to actually show people my coaching style. And, it was one of those things that when I had the idea, I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then when I went to do it, I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Because it's really got a different energy to it when you're coaching someone very personally one-on-one to when you're coaching them knowing that basically the entire world can watch that session. And as it turned out, we just, we chilled out and we relaxed, and it became really good. But I think that, and what I found from it actually was that my willingness to be in that really vulnerable space, of course I didn't have to use it, but being willing to be in that vulnerable space where I'm like, okay, this might work or it really might not. And okay, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Most people won't even put themselves there in the first place. And what I've found for me is that when I put myself in that space where I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know how it's going to work or if it's going to work even, that's actually when the real magic can show up. And I sometimes forget this, and we all forget this because it's so easy to go, oh, I'll just do what I know will work, right? The thing is, we're living in this amazing, changing world, and this, and when I say amazing, changing world, it's changing really hugely a lot at the moment. And like if we look at what's happening with the Amazon and the fires, and they've had the beginnings of rain today. And I was looking at this today because, I've been doing some work on it. Lots of different people that I know have been doing different energetic work to bring the rain. And what I have seen over the internet is like, some people have brought their prayers, their meditation, their ceremonies, their energetic capacities. And so across the world, there's this bringing together of people in a way that isn't organized necessarily and isn't something that people would do if they didn't think there was a problem. And this is what I was thinking about this afternoon. I was like, we won't fling ourselves into the unknown often unless we think we've got a problem. We won't go on an adventure unless, there's something to fix. And one of the things that I have really consistently done over the years is I've made myself have adventures for the curiosity of them rather than because there was something to fix or there was something that, needed working on. And what I've noticed is actually the more playful I get, the more I discover things I didn't know about what was possible. And I think today's just been one of those days where it's just been all day. I've just been flinging myself into the unknown and then going, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And then I get through the other side of it and I'm like, oh, actually, that was pretty good. Let me see what else I can do. Right. And so I wonder what it would be like if rather than overthinking this next thing that you're going to do, this next thing you're going to create, this next thing that's pulling at you, I wonder what it would be like to like literally just fling yourself into it with wild abandon and just go, okay, I'm going there and I'm just going to see what it's going to be. Because we're really good at overthinking it and then going, oh no, I don't know if that'll work. And, or, oh no, I don't know if I can do that. In my mastermind today, I was just losing it. And I was saying, I don't think I can do that because I'd asked them for an idea of what I could do for something in my business. And they're saying, do this. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do that, you know. And the funny thing is that that opened up this whole can of worms. And once we sort of sorted out all the energy of it, then I'm like, oh, well, of course I can do that. But actually, I could probably do something even better, you know. And this is what happens when we're really willing to create into the unknown rather than only create what we know we can do. And so I want to really invite you to start asking yourself what it is you're not creating, what it is you're not doing, what it is you're stopping yourself from because you've decided that it's too unknown. Because what happened today was, out of all the different things that occurred, I didn't die from any of them. There was a few uncomfortable moments, and there was definitely, a little bit of doubt here and there, but it didn't last very long. And what I noticed was actually I ended up feeling really good. And this was a day where I would have liked to have just gone back to bed and done nothing, And I did have a little nap this afternoon. That was not unknown, but it was literally having a rest from the unknown, I think. And okay, Suzanne, I'm glad it's perfect timing for you because and often, I am good at timing. That's one thing. And it's funny because sometimes I tell myself I'm not. So this is another thing, right? So here you are saying it's perfect timing. And yet so often I will tell myself, oh no, that's not the right time for that. Or, oh, I got that timing really wrong. And it's not true. And so I wonder how many stories we tell ourselves and when I say stories that aren't true, right? Stories that are definitely not true. And I wonder how many of those stories we tell ourselves as a way of stopping ourselves from going into the unknown and having the adventure. Because I've always got a story in my head about why I'm not going to do a Facebook Live, And literally this afternoon, I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I have makeup, I have lighting. I finally sorted out the lighting in my cottage. It's taken me months, well, yeah, literally months to work out what I needed to do. Anyway, I finally tested something and it's working. So now I feel like happy again to do Facebook Lives because I didn't like doing them in the dark. It didn't feel right. So I want to know for you, maybe the question to ask yourself is um, what is the adventure you could have that would bring you to a level of vulnerability that would actually set you free? That's really the question I want to ask you. And when I say set you free, it can be set you free like hugely, or it can be set you free for the next step, the next way, the next space you're going to move to. Because we're really good at doing all the stuff around the edges and not going to that really, really vulnerable space where, you don't feel like you know what's going to happen next. And I think, a lot of the time people sort of, when they talk about vulnerability, it's all about, their sob story or, yeah, things that I don't actually, that to me, those things are not so much vulnerability in the way I'm talking about here. It's more like, imagine being so vulnerable that you didn't say no to anything the universe was placing in front of you. And, for me, it's like sometimes I think, but there's nothing here. The universe isn't giving me anything. What's going on? And today, I think, was really a lesson in seeing that it's always available to us, always available to us. And we just have to say yes, and not that half-hearted yes that we say with a bit of resentment or a bit of hesitation. It's the yes that is, well, hell, I'm just going to try this out and see where we go. And the session with my client, like, I know her quite well, and she's been my client on and off for many years. And it was really interesting because we were both like sitting there, like on our best behavior. And I was just like, oh, this is so funny. We have to stop this. This is not how it works. And so once we sort of let ourselves off the hook from having to do it perfect, from having to even have something that's useful, then everything flowed. And we did a little debrief at the end of the session. And just because it was kind of, the energy was there to do that. And it was fascinating because she said to me, that's, and these are my words, not hers, because I can't remember the exact words she said to me, but she basically said to me, this is the most coherent that I've been able to be in expressing what I want from you. And it was true. She was really specific for, the first time, whereas often we pretty much have a coaching conversation in energy, and then, by the way, we'll do a few words. And so it was really an interesting space for us both to be in, to be much more specific so that other people could receive, the gift of what we're creating there. And so I wonder how often you put yourself in that space, because one thing I know is that vulnerability is an invitation, okay? And literally, even if people, when they watch that session, don't know, oh, that was really not what she expected. And it was, it took something to do that. Even if they don't know that, the energy will be in the session. And so that energy is in our invitations, it's in our adventures. And I think the unknown literally is, it's truly, for me, it is like literally just a space of vulnerability. It's a space of, well, this is something you haven't had before. Are you willing to have it? And I feel like after today, I want even more of it. Like I'm really kind of a bit astonished about how the day has gone. And I have to say it took a bit of processing after the first session to be able to do the second session, because I was just like, man, I'm fried. But there's this real magic that shows up when we just go, okay, I'm here for whatever is available for me. And that is, I think, the adventure of living. And it has a capacity for creation that our thinking cannot get to, basically. And so I wonder what it would be like if you would just start down this path. And I don't think I've ever had words for this before. I don't think I've ever put myself through the ringer this many times in one day, you know. So it's been really interesting that all of this energy sort of collided at once. So I don't know if you've got any questions or there's anything you would like to ask about. I just sort of wanted to share the energy while it was still very much in my world, and and maybe just mention that, this is part of what we'll get to play with at Creative Futures in Europe. I'm going to Scotland, Iceland, and the Netherlands, and all the dates are listed in, in the post for the video. And it's in September, actually. So if you want to come play, because I feel like this is what I've talked about just here is pretty much where we're going to start from in some ways, And so it's really just this thing of, how many adventures have you refused that would have taken you to exactly where you've been trying to go? And I get a bit horrified when I look at that for myself. I'm like, man, I've had a lot of adventures and I've slowed myself down quite a bit because of all the ones I refused. And so I wonder what it is in the adventures and the unknown that you're refusing, that if you would just, let down those barriers a little bit and just go, okay, the worst thing that can happen is this doesn't work. The worst thing that can happen is whatever. Because what I see is when we go to that worst thing, it's like, well, does that really matter? And 99% of it, yes, I'm going to go to France in 2020, that's for sure. And what I see in, I think we must have a time lag, actually, because I can see that your comments are coming about probably even a couple of minutes after I've said the things. So if something's not making sense, that's just that. Sorry about that. Um, yeah. So going back to the thing of when we play with these things, I think it's a way of speeding up the creation of what we desire. And so now I'm really in the question of, okay, what other adventures can I have? What can I add here that will actually give me the awareness and the vulnerability and the space that will allow the creation from the unknown into the known? Because, you know, a lot of us have this energetic awareness where we know that all of these really amazing things are possible. And yet, we don't necessarily bring them to life on this planet. Now, part of that is because the ideas or the energies come to us as a part of the creation of other things, and they're not necessarily meant to be physically created. And this took me a long time to work out, because I was always like, well, how can I have all these great ideas that I've got? How can I? And then I realized I need, like, 10 lifetimes to be able to have them all. And so I started looking at, well, why are they coming to me? What's going on here? And I realized that basically they're coming to give me energies. And so when you start looking at all your ideas as, oh, these things are here to give me energies, these things are here to give me awareness, then what happens from that, when you start applying those energies and that awareness to what you are physically creating, there is a real magic that shows up that is really nonlinear and really generative and very playful, actually. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that's all makes sense. I'm really talking to you from the space of being in the space, and sometimes that means that the words aren't necessarily fully logical. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming to play with me this afternoon, and have a really beautiful weekend. And I hope that you get to explore that space of the vulnerability and the adventure and the unknown as a little surprise package, maybe, that will take you exactly where you're asking to go. All right, thank you. See you later.